Ukraine back in its original form. For more on where things stand, I want to bring in Andrij Dobriansky. He's the communications director for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America and has been at the UN General Assembly this week with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Andrij, thanks so much for being here. I got to ask you, if you could be honest here, how surprised were you by the post and the president's comments?
Not as surprised as if I hadn't talked to the foreign minister. He arrived on Sunday, and he said big things are happening this week. We obviously saw 60 leaders sign on to the Crimean platform today. A lot of things happening on the outside. But this is truly surprising. So I was warned that something big might happen. Here we have President Trump fundamentally changing his mind and seeing a win for him. He's been talking about this being Biden's war. He wants to end this war, not with a diplomacy. He wants a thorough end for what Putin's been doing.
Andrij, I was in Alaska there for the Potential Peace Summit. I was in front of the White House anchoring this show when Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the president of Ukraine, was there speaking with European leaders and the president. This is a big shift. Do we know why the president shifted? Because this wasn't his original offer.
Because of the intelligence on the ground. Ukraine has been trying to get more weapons. There's been discussions about more sanctions. Ukraine at the same time said, hey, let's look at what sanctions are existing right now. And part of those sanctions are sanctions on Western manufactured parts for refineries in Russia. Those are the refineries they're targeting with those new long-range 2,000, 3,000-meter drones. If they can knock down Russia's oil production, which is what President Trump mentioned in his meeting with Zelenskyy, he sees the drop in oil. He also knows that he's ramping up LNG, and he's talking to European leaders, but he's also going to be supplying them with more. This is a win-win. If Ukraine keeps on knocking down Russia's oil production, the United States not only gets an end to the war, which they've been financing in a way, but they get to increase their export of fossil fuel to Europe.
How much faith do you have in the president that he won't reverse his stance again, President Trump?
I got to tell you that a lot of Europeans, including some of President Macron's people, were saying, well, you can't trust him. He goes one day, the next. The Ukrainians in the room said to a person, what we read on Truth Social, those are the words he talked to President Zelenskyy about. So he's real about this in a certain way.
Okay, Andrij, I want to ask you about something else. Just yesterday, we reported on drone sightings, right? This was a big story in Europe. We had him here in New Jersey last year. They shut down 2 major airports in Europe, with some suggesting those drones were Russian. And countries across Europe have been on high alerts in recent weeks because of Russian aircraft entering their airspace, NATO countries. President Zelenskyy spoke about this in his address to the UN. I want to play a bit of that for our viewers.
Ukraine is only the first, and now Russian drones are already flying across Europe, and Russian operations are already spreading across countries, and Putin wants to continue this war by expanding it, and no one can feel safe right now.
Is that real, or is that an exaggeration? Is Russia trying to expand this war?
They are also testing. But at the same time, here's one key point that Ukrainian negotiators want the West to understand. You remember what Russia's been doing over the last decade, especially when you go a little further back during the Olympics. Right before the Olympics, the entire world was saying, how can you possibly give Russia the Olympics? They've invaded Georgia. They've done all this stuff. And what they did right before then is they ramped up prosecution of LGBT rights in Russia. That ended up being the only concession they gave to have the Olympics go on after that without any international scandal. This is the similar tactic. We're going to ramp up all of these aerial incursions onto NATO territory right before they think they're going to sit down with President Trump and have a negotiation. In other words, they're raising the cards on the table.
Straw man almost, right?
Exactly. Okay. And so we got to be careful about what Russia's doing. Yes, they're testing, but they're also increasing the cards they have to play on the table for negotiation.
Andrij, so great to have you here for your analysis. We appreciate it. Come back anytime, okay?